everyone, and welcome back to the Elevate series, where today I have the true honor of having a conversation with Joshua Berry, who is the founder of Econic and the best-selling author of Dare to Be Naive, which I definitely want to get into today. He has a great TEDx speech that's online that we have linked to on the Elevate series webpage so that you can get access to that. We're going to be digging into it a little bit today. But I'm really interested in your perspective, Joshua. I was fortunate enough to meet Josh. What was that, 2 years ago now?
Yeah, a few years. Yeah, 2 or 3.
Goodness. And from second one, I was intrigued by Joshua. First of all, like his artwork is very appealing to
It
me.
rivals you. It rivals some of yours, Amber, but yes.
It
Thanks.
like draws me in, and he has been, we've had so many Zoom meetings about his book and about his business and what his view is on the world. And I feel like, Joshua, you've always been so steady and
Mm.
so generous and kind and thoughtful and really introspective and intelligent. And I've always just been really drawn to the way that you see the world. And I think that, by shining kind of a flashlight on that, not to embarrass you, but I really, it's less about what other people have said on this series. And I'm just really curious about what your observations are right now inside of your own company or inside of others that you're consulting with. What's going on with leaders and their mindset? What I keep saying consistently is that we're not doom and gloomers here,
Yeah.
because I think in any transition, there's opportunity. But I also want to shine a light on what people are actually feeling, thinking, moving through right now so that we can look at it a little bit more creatively. So, just to kind of kick off, are there any observations you're open to sharing?
As you mentioned, there's so much uncertainty. I think that's been a theme of a lot of these conversations since you've graciously started hosting them again, Amber. Uh, what's interesting is in the different pockets of conversations, whether I'm leading workshops with public health directors who are facing, federal budget cuts, to engineering companies who are thinking about how maybe in just a few years, a big swath of their workforce could likely be taken over by AI agents. Uh, there's uncertainty, but it's different uncertainty, right? In different areas. And it's
Yes.
kind of all coalescing at the same time. I wrote a post on LinkedIn recently that we're feeling the same things in our business too. And it isn't just one thing, it's a bunch of different things. And when we're in a space, as you said, of transition, it's easy to start to like look outside and try to best practice and grab onto other things. But part of what I'm seeing some of the best leaders during this time are doing is they're taking a beat and they're going back inside and they're saying like, what is actually true, right? Like what's happening out there. I see AI agents are going to have a compounded annual growth rate of 45% until 2030 and be a $50 billion market. Okay, how do I want to react to that noise? How am I going to take this into it? Because we have plenty of clients who are reacting and doing things with heart, right? Around how do we shift our workforce? How do we upskill people? How do we redesign our org? How do we use this responsibly and ethically? But the best leaders are taking a beat, right? They're taking a moment to pause and they're saying, well, what do I believe? And how do I want to show up in this new reality?
Wow. That is great to hear, actually. I'm wondering, the leaders that you're talking to, are they thinking through how do I save my workforce yet integrate AI so that the two are playing together? Or are more leaders thinking, how do I adopt AI and remove workforce to increase profit or to have a chance, with my
It's
competitors?
mixed, Amber. It's so mixed, and I'd
Yeah.
be curious what you're seeing and feeling as well. I am seeing some that are saying, how do we use it to reposition people in the organization? So
Right.
there's one client who's saying, well, to be able to do that better, we need to stop thinking about people in jobs and boxes. We need to start to break work down into skills and capabilities, and then we can start to see how do we bring in or out AI or other work. I think that's a healthy approach to it. There are definitely others who are being promised by tech companies that this will help you in your reduction of force that you need because you bloated up too much over the last several years. And this is where again the reaction differs. I see some leaders. I was talking to a chief marketing officer at a large insurance company, and he said, "Yeah, that sounds great, and actually the ROI looks good." But then I'm thinking, now we're just becoming a platform. Like we don't have the labor around this anymore. We're now even more beholden. He was talking about Adobe. Not going to call out Adobe here, but like their spend on Adobe, especially with all the AI features coming into it, could 10x. And the promise is that could save all of these people, the headcount, right? Look at all this cost savings. And yet he saw that and said, but like further power, further like cost, everything just then gets sucked over there. Again, where's the residual value in our firm? And an engineering client was thinking the same thing. He's like, great, yeah, we're going to have a lot of work that could be replaced. Is that going to go to Autodesk? Is it going to go to way bigger companies in our industry who actually are investing in this technology? They're a mid-sized firm, and they're trying to start to figure out what does it mean if we start to, yes, embrace AI in a way that may replace or enable an upskilling of our workforce, but also then where's the value of what we bring to our clients?
Oh my gosh. I mean, just in that segment alone, there's just this flood of thoughts and questions that I really have because I know I was talking to a woman yesterday who's a business owner, and she said, if AI is to replace all of these jobs, like what do all of the people do?
Yeah,
And then I was talking to like, where are these people going to go? Like, how are they going to, put food on their table? And then I was talking to a consultant on Monday, and he was saying that he read a report that 85% of the jobs that will be on the marketplace in 2030 haven't even been invented yet. And
yeah,
so I'm thinking through, leaders, yourself, myself, our clients, we are, thinking through these short term, problems of,
sure,
longer
sure.
sales cycles. What am I doing with my team? How am I adopting AI? What do I feel about these things? How am I taking care of myself while trying to predict, which is almost impossible probably, but like trying to predict where humanity will really be in less than 5 years. COVID was 5 years ago. I mean,
Yeah.
like it's a blink.
Well,
And yeah, go ahead.
I have a I have you'd asked as we were prepping for this, maybe an underappreciated or a possible trend that's not getting enough attention right now.
Please.
And I want to toss an idea to you and see what you think. But not only do we get involved in a lot of strategy and innovation and workforce things, but I also sometimes volunteer for our lifelong learning initiative here at the University of Nebraska Lincoln, which teaches recently retired individuals about new things like AI and tech. And during that, we got into a great debate on AI and exactly what you're saying and what are all these people going to do with their jobs and generational differences. And so there's an interesting thing that is happening right now in that we also have people younger than you and I, Amber, even though we're ridiculously young and good looking right now,
Totally
that
right.
are that are in a space where they're saying, work maybe doesn't exactly mean like in this location for this time for this company. And so the ask, like, and this is why I think I'm naive, we're going to be okay because the generations coming behind are saying, I don't want the 60-hour work week that my parents had and success of this. And then at the same time, the trends that are happening around more post-consumer business models, regenerative work, like all of these other things are also starting to come around that are just like grading on this do more, be more, create more sort of ethos that the technology and AI can actually start to help a bit with. And so it's a fascinating convergence of a few of these trends that I wonder are a little bit underappreciated. And if we're only looking at it in the short term from one lens of what's this tech going to do, and we're not
Right.
thinking about future generations, like we may be missing out on an interesting part of the story.
I think you're right. And I'm really super glad that you brought that to the series because nobody else has yet, not in that way. And I was reading some article I feel like I am Amber AI right now. Like I'm just consuming like crazy. And yeah, it was bringing up some of those differences, and it really made me step back and think, what am I missing? Like,
Mm,
I don't have, I need to shift my perspective and worldview as much as I can and look at it through different lenses. And I think this is an opportunity for creativity to be on the rise. That
mm,
consultant I was talking to on Monday was talking about how we've been humans doing,
yeah.
and AI is taking care of a lot of that doing moving forward, and it creates this space for creativity and innovation. But I still think that the more perspectives we can get, the better off we will be, which is kind of the whole point behind the Elevate series too. It's just so phenomenal, the diversity of speaker and industry and thought leaders that we've had on the series so far. And
Yeah.
I want to shine a light, Joshua, on your book, Dare to Be Naive. How do the principles in that book, how are you using them in your own business, in your own mind right now? And how are you inviting other leaders to consider the principles in your book to be better off in this moment?
What a beautiful transition. Thank you so much, Amber. Uh, so first off, dare to be naive.
So
Not
great.
I appreciate it. Not great SEO. Like nobody's searching like how can I be more naive? And so when the book finds the right people, it lands with them really
Yeah.
well, right? It is definitely a lighthouse book, as you and I have talked about. Uh, the principles are so important to this time right now because my principles that I primarily discuss is that what some may see as naive, what some may see as really pragmatic, is all just a matter of beliefs, and it's all a spectrum. And beliefs are just our mental models we use to be able to navigate the world. They always divide the world up into this, not that. And so the book positions and pokes and prods at people really to say, here's some things that probably we're going to need to contend with, right? Maybe employees are more valuable than companies. Maybe you should hold your IP a lot more open. Maybe growth for growth's sake doesn't make sense. But the book doesn't say, and now go think and do these thoughts. This is right. The book just uses those to like poke people to say, well, what do you actually believe here? And then it goes through 4 questions. And those 4 questions are, where did you learn that belief? Is it true? And then what do you gain and what do you lose by holding that belief? Even as we're talking optimistically about AI and, oh, maybe with generational differences, those things will start to work themselves out. Cool. Where did we learn that belief? Is it true? I mean, it's more of a rhetorical question. But then what do we gain and what do we lose by holding that belief? Because we're always going to gain or lose something. And how it's so pertinent to entrepreneurs, leaders, business people, anybody listening to this who's in change, is there are certain stories that you're going to be telling yourself about what I should be doing now or what's possible or other thoughts that are being led by some of the even the amazing people that you're bringing to this stage here. And what I'm here, I guess, with the book to say is like, I'm actually more of an advocate that people lead their own thoughts than like look to me as a thought leader. And they say, here's the thought I have. And that thought comes from these beliefs. Now, where's this belief taking me? And are we entering into a space now where maybe it served me well, right? This idea of I have to be a specialist, or this idea of if I were to take a step back and my company were to stop growing, I'm seen as unsuccessful, right? Like whatever those stories or beliefs or other things that are getting in people's way, where'd you learn that belief? And what do you gain and what do you hold by losing that belief? And until people have the space that's created to be able to start to see some of those stories, the stories that I tell myself all of the time, and I've had a number of them with our own business lately. We don't actually get to move through these and own our authentic journey that's unfolding before us in the work that we
Okay, so the people that know me and have read Infinite Impact are over here just reeling because they could probably see with such clarity why I'm such a fan of yours.
have.
With Infinite Impact, my spin on that for my work and my community, is I really come out in the book Infinite Impact saying that I had these outdated beliefs that were running my life. One big one of mine is that when I am seen and heard, bad things happen. Because
Hmm.
for decades, I collected evidence that every time I stuck my neck out, I would get punished. I would get bullied. Something bad would happen. And so, honestly, by the time I was 17 years old, I held the belief that it was safer to be invisible in the world. And having to identify that outdated belief and then unpack it and then rewire it was something that I really address in the book. For those of you that saw Daryl's session yesterday, he made a nod to it. He was talking about the courage to course correct.
Sure.
And that's what I call it. That's a chapter in the book. I think it is crucial right now in an age of misinformation and disillusionment, and when a lot of people's personal self trust is plummeting. I
Sure.
think it is crucial that you go back and do the work that Joshua and I align with are talking about to really look at your beliefs and let that inform a lot of your decision making in your future, which then takes a nod to you're saying the leaders that you are really advocating for right now are taking a beat. They are
Yeah.
doing some of this reflection, which makes me want to ask you, in a time like this, Joshua, how do you protect thinking time? I mean, most leaders right now, their hair is on fire. They have so many different things to solve for. How are you taking care of yourself and creating space outside of anxiety and panic to have that thoughtful introspection to be able to get a little bit more creative?
Yeah. I think I stole the framework from Dr. Peter Attia, but like objective strategies, tactics. My tactics are changing all of the time around this. My strategies, though, for this are typically around nutrition and exercise and relationships. And so, exercise, it was noticing a couple of months ago that I was getting stale in my exercise routine and I needed to shift to something else because if I wasn't starting to reprioritize that, I wasn't going to have the energy. It
Mm,
was re-engagement with a meditation group that I lead, and we had been doing it in an infrequent way. But I'm like, you know what? Now is the time I need to step up and lead into this even further. Nutrition wise, it was honestly cutting out alcohol. It was watching what I was eating from sugars and carbs and some of those things that during winter and during some of those months when things are going better, like I can relax a bit. But I notice that as I get older, like things impact me a lot more than they used to. And so I've just had
mm,
to create space for that. And then on the relationship side, prioritizing time for things that aren't just directly business related because I can get lost into, and I definitely have had times in my life where I started to spiral on chasing. Well, I need to do this, or I need to get out there and network more. I need to sell, and it was chasing things that didn't provide me energy, chasing things that I would justify or rationalize as activity that actually didn't create value. And so, taking a beat and doing that, right? Like I cleared. I feel like these weeks I'm working more hours than ever. And I cleared an hour and a half this morning to sit with a friend who was recently separated from work. Just because like that is what I'm being called into at that moment. And you know what? It's every time it's rewarding because we're sitting there and he's talking about things. And I said, have you thought about this opportunity or this one? And he lit up and he said, somebody else yesterday brought up that exact same organization. Right? Like I just there's little winks and nods all over the place when I actually like take a beat and I also pause to follow where I'm being guided, not just what some of my outdated stories and beliefs, as you said, are telling me I should spend time on.
true, and it's restorative. I mean, I love Ashish Katari was saying last week that our bodies are built to handle stress. Where we fall down is in the recovery. And
Recovery.
if you
Yeah.
don't have proper recovery, you're going to get burnt out. You're going to be exhausted. You're not going to think as clearly. And I'll give a nod to Dr. Ryan Williamson, our neurologist, who's coming in this afternoon. I'm very excited to see what he has to say about
Mm,
how do we protect our brains right now more than anything. You hit on relationships though, Joshua, and I think that of the people that I know you are one of the best at nurturing relationships. I don't know if you see yourself that way, but just from my vantage point, I've talked to so many people all the time, and you're always so intentional and thoughtful. And it doesn't mean that you're writing me novels every single time that we have an email exchange, but I can tell it's you. I can tell you're being present. I can tell it's genuine. And that matters to me. It makes me want to reciprocate. It makes me want to give to you and to support you. Even though we're not talking every week, but like
Yeah.
it's just there and it's present. Do you have any tips or keys to success or just nuggets that you want to share with the audience where they might feel like I want to do that, but I don't have the time? And they're not accessing that parts of themselves. But I think relationships moving forward are going to be more important than ever before. So what do you
I,
think?
I, Great question. And you, I thank you. And you model so much of this too. It makes it easy to reciprocate, honestly. So we just have 4 core values at our organization. One of those is give more, and give more is always about being on the plus side of value wherever you are at, right? That's everything from
Mm.
being overly abundant in contract negotiations to walking into a client's building and seeing trash on the ground and picking it up, or cleaning the water off the bathroom in a
I
client's
do these things.
like those sorts of things. And some of that, I think it's just ingrained of just like you take care of things. And some of that was built into me when I was 14 and I was working at Hy-Vee grocery stores, and there's this big banner that said act like you own the place, and I believed it. And I was like, all right, that's what I got to do. I got to pretend like I'm constantly giving more. And so I think some of it is from that. And so if I'm showing up to any of these situations, it makes me, no offense here, it makes me a mediocre guest sometimes, because I typically show up to podcasts, if anybody wants me there, and say, well, what do you want to talk about? Like, let's just, what does your audience need? Let's just figure out what they need, and let's see what flows from that. I'm showing up. You can't see it. I'm showing up with hands like this so that I can just give, give, give.
Yeah.
And where I will say, to like this time in this moment, it could be naive to think, let's also continue in that abundance and that generosity. You could be justified in saying, you know what, let's get a little bit tighter, let's get a little bit scarcer, let's protect a little bit more. And yet, like, I feel like these are the times, just like what you're doing with this series, and so many great people who are showing up here and giving of their wisdom, like giving and abundantly serving and trusting that that's the thing, and that gift is enough, right? Not that we're doing it because we expect it or anything at all. It's such a converse thing. I remember one of the first
Yes.
times you and I spoke, Amber, we were talking about my book launch, and I became a best-selling author not because I rocked it at like marketing and sales and everything. Like, you do a good job of marketing and helping other people with it. I did a mediocre job. I sold so many books and engagements, and my friend Diana reminded me of this, because I didn't do the hard work now. I did the giving work for 20 years before, right? I showed up in small giving ways for 20 years, that when I did come to a spot with an offering, people were there to also share. And so I just put that in there to say, whether it's karma or fate or reciprocity or energy, or just being a good human being, like, this is the time to lean in the giving and in that spirit, without an expectation of your return. And my experience has been that it does return at some point, but it's exactly because you didn't have the expectation of return, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, there was a part of me that felt like my well was emptied
Mm.
before I started the series, because I was recovering from a concussion. I had a lot of things happen in my life in the last 8 months that were super difficult. And so there was this feeling of I felt a little defeated. There was a little bit of despair. There was
Sure.
this anxiety of like, what do I want from here? What am I creating from here? And in a moment where I didn't know what to do next, that like I just have this response of, well, it's time to show up and give. Just
Mm.
give, give,
Mm.
give, 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 with no thought or attachment of return. no strategy, no transaction, just give. And what I have found, because I've experienced this before, is there's this bottomless well
Yeah.
of energy that I have for giving. And it has then been life giving for me to show up in service. And it has like overnight healed my concussion, Joshua. I'm not even kidding you. Whereas like I was in bed with the blinds pulled, struggling, headaches. I don't have any of that right now. And that is how fast the physical body can repair itself when you are showing up in service and in love to others with no thought of return. I come back to the book, The Go-Giver,
Yeah.
with Bob Berg. Love that book. Easy read. It's a fable. So you could look at, the audiobook version of that, but just whatever you need to do to input positivity, love,
Mm-hmm.
hope, faith, trust. I'm really careful about what I listen to in terms of music. I don't listen to sad music or anything like that. It's always uplifting music, uplifting
Yeah.
TV if I'm watching TV, uplifting books, uplifting conversations. Because what you think about really grows. And I want to grow a powerful, loving, connected, conscious community that is doing incredible things in the world. Right.
I love it. I
So,
love
get me on my preacher box. Um, Over to you, Joshua. I mean, two last questions. One is really, what advice are you giving leaders that maybe we haven't already touched on? For example, I'm telling people the thing that I want you to do the most right now is to prioritize self-care.
it.
I
Hmm.
want you to
Hmm.
show up and give your heart out without thought of return. And I want you to be fully self expressed. I want you to not hold back, not try to package your position, but just say what you really want to say and pour into the relationships that matter the most to you. Like that's sort
Love
of
it.
a framework that I can give to people and learn AI. Like these are just throw that in there. Some of the things that I'm recommending to my clients, but I'm curious, is there anything else that we haven't discussed yet that you're recommending?
Yeah. Uh, the first is I use the word thrive a lot, but it's very intentional for me. And I use a truncated definition from evolutionary biology, which says that anything that thrives will preserve essential DNA, it will discard DNA that no longer serves it, and it will
Huh.
rearrange for new flourishing. And most times people think thriving is like rearrange and preserve, like, no, no, discard. There has to be stuff that is discarded. And so use this time, use this work. David White says that work is where self meets the world, right? You have this work in front of you, this classroom in front of you with whatever is going on in your life right now. You get to use this time to have the agency to think what you're going to preserve and what you're going to discard. And so my second ask is, if you were to take a moment and say, what would the highest and best version of me be doing right now? And what stops me from that?
Ooh.
And nail that limiting belief or two or three or four. And then ask yourself, well, where did I learn that belief? Is it really true? And what do I gain and what do I lose? And realize that those questions are about non-judgment of wherever you are in that moment. Like even I'm going to pick on you, Amber. I'm going to say
Pick on me.
listening to positive music is good. Great. Where did you learn that? Is it true? And then what do you gain and what do you lose by holding that belief? Until we can make space just to see stuff as it is without the judgment on it, we can't start to lead our own thoughts and beliefs and start to make some of those transitions. We're just going to like pick up that best practice because Amber said it or because Joshua said it or whatever those things are. No, no, no. People need to reclaim their agency during these moments to be able to step into who they came here to be.
Oh, gosh. You light me up. I feel like so much energy is just like bubbling up all over the place. I'm going to get so much done today because of you.
So many more Elevate talks, Amber. So many. Good to see you.
Oh my gosh, I love this guy. All right, Joshua. Last question I always ask, and you've been dropping some nuggets, but if this is your stage, if this is your moment to really say what you wish humanity would know right now, what you believe. And I know you've kind of touched on it multiple times, probably, but maybe there's something else that wants to emerge right now. What is it that you really want to say in parting words to this audience and to entrepreneurs?
You are so much more than you likely give yourself credit to be. And we need you to be all of that right now in this moment.
Perfect.
Yep.
I reflect that back to you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Amber. Thanks.
Oh, my heart is full. Everyone, thank you so much for your attention during this session. Please do me a favor and share this to 5 people that you think would really benefit from Joshua's message. Really strongly recommend you go get his book, Dare to Be Naive. Take some time for you and carve out space for thinking time and really ask yourself what you believe, reflect on that, and be creative for your future. Joshua, thank you as always for sharing yourself with us. Appreciate you so much.
Love you, Amber. Take care.
Okay. See you soon, everyone.